क्या बात है टोना जी, आज बड़ी साफ सफाई हो रही है। अरे प्रियांक की सगाई तो कल है ना।
साफ सफाई रोज होती है यहाँ, खुद तो कुछ हेल्प करवानी नहीं, जो काम कर रहे हैं उसको बस आते जाते टॉन्ट मारना।
अरे इतना गुस्सा क्यों होती हो? मैं तो बस मजाक कर रहा था। बताइए मैं आपकी क्या हेल्प करूं?
सगाई कल है लेकिन मेहमान तो आज से आएंगे ना।
अरे मुझे पता है, मैं तो बस एनीवे अब लखन जी आते ही होंगे। बाहर से आने वाले मेहमानों में अब वही बचे हैं।
मुझे भी लखन जी से मिलने की बहुत इच्छा है भैया। क्या मस्त इंसान है ना वो, और लास्ट टाइम कितने पेशेंस से उन्होंने हमारे साथ सारी ज़रूरी फाइनेंशियल इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर की थी।
तुम सही कह रहे हो मधु, लखन जी बहुत ही अच्छे इंसान हैं। लास्ट टाइम उन्होंने हमें जो एडवाइसेस दी थी ना, उसके लिए तो मैं जिंदगी भर उनका थैंकफुल रहूंगा। टोना जी, मैं चाहता हूं कि लखन जी के लिए आज डिनर में कुछ स्पेशल बनाया जाए।
तो आपको क्या लगता है कि मैंने स्पेशल बनाया नहीं होगा?
बढ़िया है, चलो इसी बहाने मुझे भी कुछ अच्छा खाने को मिल जाएगा।
क्या कहा आपने मिस्टर दीनदयाल जी?
कुछ नहीं, मैं तो मजाक कर रहा था।
आइए आइए आइए।
देखा, मैं जीत गया ना। मैंने कहा था तुमसे। कैसे हो मधु?
मैं ऑल गुड।
अरे दीनदयाल जी, कैसे हैं आप?
बस बहुत बढ़िया।
दोनों जी नमस्ते।
नमस्ते, कैसे हैं आप?
मैं अच्छा हूँ, आप लोग कैसे हैं?
बस बढ़िया, आइए बैठिए बैठिए।
थैंक यू थैंक यू। सफर अच्छा रहा?
इस बार सर फ्लाइट से ही आए हैं।
हाँ, इस बार टाइम की थोड़ी कमी थी। एंड फिर प्रियान की एंगेजमेंट तो मुझे मिस करनी नहीं थी। फिर सोचा एक दिन पहले आ जाऊं ताकि आप लोगों के साथ ज्यादा टाइम बिताने को मिले।
अच्छा किया आपने।
लखन जी एक बात पूछूं?
हाँ पूछो।
मैंने अभी दरवाजा खोला तो आपने कहा कि मैं जीत गया, तो बस वही पूछना था कि क्या जीत गए आप?
अच्छा वो, यार मैंने प्रियान से शर्त लगाई थी कि पिछली बार की तरह इस बार भी दरवाजा तुम ही खोलोगे, और देखा तुम ही ने खोला।
क्या करें?
मैं चाय बना के लाती हूँ।
प्लीज थोड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग।
श्योर।
मैं सामान रख के आता हूँ अंदर।
और बताइए दीनदयाल जी, हाउ इज लाइफ, हाउ इज एवरीथिंग?
लखन जी, सब कुछ अच्छे से चल रहा है। आपकी फाइनेंशियल एडवाइस के गहरे कुएं में से हम सब लोग अपने पोर्टफोलियो के लिए डिसीजंस लेते रहते हैं।
गहरा कुआ है ऑल, बट चलिए, दिस शोज कि आप लोग ने अपने पोर्टफोलियो में बहुत सारे चेंजेस किए।
यस, चेंजेस तो जरूर किए हैं। आपने जो हमें पॉइंट्स दिए थे ना, उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए।
लखन जी मैंने तो आपके एडवाइस के सहारे अपना पूरा पोर्टफोलियो ही चेंज कर दिया।
आई नो अबाउट प्रियान, इसके बारे में थोड़ा बहुत पता है मुझे।
Yes, sir. As you know, I've tried working on my portfolio. It was too conservative before this.
Good. I'm really happy that I could help you guys. But before we get into more details about your respective portfolios, I want to ask you guys a question. Tell me, what happens if we don't use our car or if we don't service it for a longer term?
So the battery will die, the brakes will get rusty, and the tires will deflate if we are, don't look at it.
Exactly. Just like your car, your portfolio needs to be serviced and reviewed regularly. Now, the financial term used for this is review and rebalance. This can help you understand if your portfolio is on a right track or if it needs to be fixed accordingly.
यही same concept life पे भी applicable है. To see if it is going on right track.
Exactly, Brian. Absolutely right.
You have invested in different classes of assets over a period of time to spread your risks. But see, we cannot predict market conditions. Some of your investments will do well at times, while other may not, and there's nothing you can do to change that. But what we can do is check if you are on track and appraise whether your investments are still in line with your goals and risk tolerance. Ideally, you should review your portfolio once every quarter to monitor the performance of your funds and conduct a yearly review, preferably in the month of April or whatever date works for you. Be it the 1st of Jan or even your birthday to evaluate your investment strategy. This annual review will help you change your tactics if need be and correct your course on a timely basis to optimize results. Here, our course correction will be rebalancing.
हाँ हाँ लखन जी, मुझे याद है लास्ट टाइम आपने कहा था you need to adjust your portfolio annually और semi annually. बस मैं कुछ दिनों से सोच रहा था कि मैं अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को कैसे एडजस्ट करूं।
आपको मेरी कही हुई 6 महीने पुरानी बातें भी याद है?
सिर्फ मुझे ही नहीं, हम सबको आपकी सारी बातें याद हैं।
थैंक यू जी। तो चलिए, एडजस्टिंग योर पोर्टफोलियो के बारे में थोड़ा डिटेल में बात करते हैं। बट एट फर्स्ट Let me tell you about the review process. There are two types of review process to analyze your portfolio.
Tactical review process and strategic review process. You will have to use them both if you want to be thorough. Let me take you through the tactical one first. Tactical review consists of developing a monthly or quarterly system to monitor underlying investments or funds by checking on the following parameters. A. Is each fund performing the way it is supposed to? B. Has there been any sharp movement in prices? C. Has there been any major news or event that could upset particular investments in your portfolio? D. How has each fund performed on a year-to-date basis as compared to its peers? E. Differentiate between temporary underperformers and long-term underperformers. Take an informed judgment call based on these parameters after monitoring the fund's performance over a 12-month period.
ये सारे पॉइंट्स बहुत ही सही और हेल्पफुल है. बट सर, आर देयर एनी रेड फ्लैग्स दैट वी नीड टू लुक आउट फॉर बेस्ड ऑन व्हिच वी कैन कंसीडर सेलिंग द फंड्स?
That's a very good question, Priyank.
Yes, there are few red flags you need to look out for. First, if you become uncomfortable with the degree of risk of a fund. Second, if there is a change in a key property of a fund. Let's say if the fund objective, fund style, or the fund manager changes. Third, or even if the fund undergoes a scheme merger or a fund house merger.
इन रेस्पेक्ट्स पर हम जरूर से ध्यान रखेंगे.
बिल्कुल, इन पे ध्यान रखना जरूरी है. Now let me tell you about strategic review process.
Where the tactical method focuses on the outside, the strategic process focuses inwards. Let me explain. A strategic review consists of evaluating your investment strategy as well as your personal financial needs or situation annually and semi-annually. Here, you will consider both the state of your investments and analyze your personal circumstances to look out for any red flags that require immediate attention.
पर्सनल सर्कमस्टेंसेस, इसमें क्या क्या आएगा? क्या कंसीडर करना है, क्या नहीं करना है?
आप सब ये क्वेश्चन अपने आप से पूछिए. This will help you guys determine whether your portfolio is in the line with your goals and risk profile or not.
First, are there any changes in my personal situation? Second, is my retirement date unchanged? Third, are there changes to the income I need at retirement? Fourth, has my estimate for the money I thought I could invest each year changed? Fifth, have there been any personal gains or losses, business or death that could affect my planning? Sixth, do I have enough money for emergencies? Seventh, is there anything else that may affect my game plan? Keep asking yourself those questions each time you perform a strategic review. This will ensure that the makeup of your portfolio will always stay in line and your goals and your risk profile.
इन क्वेश्चंस को ध्यान में रखते हुए मुझे लग रहा है कि मुझे भी अपने पोर्टफोलियो में कुछ चेंजेस करने पड़ेंगे.
क्यों नहीं? And such dynamic is life. It keeps on changing. Even I don't know if my goal changes after a year or so. And why not? Now let me share an investment review checklist with you guys. इससे आपको पता चलेगा कि कौन से इन्वेस्टमेंट रखने हैं and कौन से बदलने हैं.
First, is the inflation rate you assumed in your planning still valid? Second, is the plan meeting your goal of a certain return rate? Third, is your asset allocation still appropriate given your risk tolerance and time horizon? Fourth, is each fund performing the way it is supposed to? Fifth, has there been any sharp movement in prices? Sixth, are any news pieces or events affecting specific investments? Seventh, does the performance of each fund line up against the benchmark and peers? Eighth, is there a need to rebalance?
लखन जी, आपकी सारी बातें तो समझ आ गई, लेकिन एक बात पूछनी थी आपसे. So, how poorly does a fund need to perform in order for it to be removed?
I like the way you think, Madhu. So if your fund's performance is 5-10% worse than the benchmark performance, this fund needs to be reviewed and corrective measures need to be taken accordingly.
What kind of corrective measures do you mean?
Now let me think of this.
एक मिनट रुकिए रुकिए, बाकी बातें बाद में, पहले चाय पीजिए.
Much needed. Thank you, Dona ji.
शाही दावत की तैयारी शुरू हो गई है. बहुत अच्छी खुशबू आ रही है.
खुशबू से तो लगता है आज टोना जी बिरयानी बना रही हैं.
वाह लखन जी, बिल्कुल सही जवाब. बिरयानी ही तैयार हो रही है, बस थोड़ा सा टाइम हो, तब तक चाय.
Perfect chai. This tea does not need rebalancing. rebalancing से याद आया. आप लोग को याद है? मधु ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था that how badly a fund need to perform To which I answered, if your fund performance is 5-10% worse than the benchmark performance, this fund needs to be reviewed and corrective measures need to be taken accordingly. That is because you cannot afford a weak asset to rot your portfolio. Remember the saying that one rotten apple can rot the entire barrel? You have to take corrective measures to ensure the good health of your portfolio.
हाँ जी, बट मैंने पूछा था व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय करेक्टिव मेजर्स?
Exactly. Now let's take Madhu's football team for example. Tell me, if a player is constantly not performing, what will the coach do?
So that player will be replaced.
Exactly. That would be a corrective measure. Or we can give this player a little more time to perform.
संभालो मधु, जिससे underperforming funds lose their spot in the portfolio, underperforming player can lose their spot in the team as well.
डोंट वरी भैया, मैं ना अपनी टीम का रोनाल्डो हूँ.
Madhu अपनी टीम का स्टार प्लेयर है. He don't need to be replaced.
But in the world of investments, we need to maintain a predetermined long-term asset allocation ratio by regularly tweaking our portfolio.
And that's where we move into the act of rebalancing.
Rebalancing is nothing but the act of adjusting the mix of assets in your portfolio so that they perform in line with your long-term financial goals. Rebalancing ensures your portfolio does not become overly dependent on the success of any one asset class or investment. You should monitor the performance of your portfolio and restore its original balance at least once every year. Let me take you through an example.
क्या आप सबको याद है how we allocate assets into two buckets as per your risk profiles and goals?
हाँ मुझे याद है लखन जी, ग्रोथ बकेट एंड सिक्योरिटी बकेट, उसी हिसाब से मैंने अपना पोर्टफोलियो बनाया है.
Excellent. So आपने अपना strategic asset allocation क्या सेट किया?
जैसे ही आपने मुझे बताया था, 60% in growth bucket and 40% in security bucket as per my risk appetite and my goals.
Wow, that is perfect. 60% in growth and 40% in securities. That's awesome.
Now let's say you have invested rupees 6 lakh in equity and rupees 4 lakh in debt instruments. Now let's assume the prices of stocks in his portfolio soared by the end of 3 years. Your equity portfolio valued is now 15 lakh, while your fixed income investments have grown to rupees 5 lakhs. That means your current asset allocation stands at 75% equity and 25% debt investment. But was that your original allocation?
No, it was 60-40.
Exactly. And now to adjust your portfolio to restore the allocation ratio back to 60-40. Now to ensure this, you have to sell some of your equity and reinvest in some more secure assets.
तो स्टॉक प्राइस अगर कंटिन्यूसली बढ़ता है तो मेरे हस्बैंड को हाई प्रॉफिट मिल सकता है, राइट?
That is only notional profit. But if the prices had fallen, his portfolio would show a notional loss and he would suffer from anxiety. I understand, ये difficult है, but it is very important to book some of the profits off the table and reduce overall exposure to growth assets. अपने emotions को control में रखना important है, as they could cloud your judgment. मुझे पता है कि मैं थोड़ा unreasonable sound कर रहा हूँ. रीबैलेंसिंग में अक्सर ऐसा होता है, जो हम करना चाहते हैं उसका ऑपोजिट करना पड़ता है, बट स्टिल रीबैलेंसिंग इज यूजुअली द राइट थिंग टू डू.
लखन जी बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. आफ्टर ऑल इट्स अ सेंसिबल अप्रोच रादर देन बीइंग ग्रीडी.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying, Dindyaji.
And rebalancing needs to happen every quarterly, semi-annually, annually, right?
Actually, that depends on what strategy you have. Now, there are 3 strategies in which you can consider.
The most basic and quick approach to rebalancing your portfolio is to regularly analyze your investments at predetermined intervals, annually or semi-annually, depending on how involved you want to be. Rebalancing by price involved. Rebalancing your portfolio by specified percentage deviation from the original weightage, say plus or minus 5% from your desired asset allocation based on your tolerance level. This is called an expansion band. I'll elaborate more on that later. This method keeps your portfolio fairly closely aligned to its original targeted allocation. But you should also know that this method requires close level monitoring and involves greater transaction cost as compared to rebalancing by time. You will need to pay commission and securities transaction tax, or sometimes exit loads in case of mutual funds and other applicable charges for every transaction you make. Oh, and don't forget, you will also have to pay capital gains taxes when you sell your investment. Be mindful of these tax implications. You can avoid short-term taxes on capital gains by holding on to your equities for over a year.
ओहो, मतलब इसमें भी टैक्स भरना होगा?
दीनदयाल जी, अब टैक्स से ही तो हमारा देश आगे बढ़ेगा ना?
लखन जी, आपकी इस बात से मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ।
Thank you, Deen Ji. There is also a third method, rebalancing by time and price.
This strategy combines the two techniques I just mentioned to rebalance your portfolio. So basically, you can review your portfolio at selected time intervals and rebalance only whenever asset classes exceed the specified expansion bands.
Sir, so we can rebalance by time, price, or combine both. But how exactly we can rebalance our portfolio? And how exactly does an expansion band work?
Okay, let me tell you how expansion band works. मधु, तुम बताओ, तुम्हारा एसेट एलोकेशन क्या है?
सर मैंने 2 लाख इन्वेस्ट किया है, एज इन द ब्रेकडाउन इज 60% 1,20,000 स्टॉक्स में और 40% 80,000 बॉन्ड्स में.
Okay, so you have equity worth 1,20,000 and your bonds are worth rupees 80,000. Now let us assume your stock increase in value by 10% and your bonds increase in value by 2% after a year. That means your equity will be valued at rupees 1,32,000 and your bonds at rupees 81,600 after 1 year. So your revised equity bond ratio will be roughly 62:38. Will you be okay with that?
हाँ चलेगा, इट्स हार्डली अ बिग डिफरेंस.
Absolutely. Now this ratio is extremely close to the original allocation ratio. So you are absolutely fine with it. You don't need to rebalance.
Now let's assume your equity goes down in value by 15% and your bonds grow by 5%. That means your equity will be valued at rupees 1,02,000 and bonds at rupees 84,000, which would make your new ratio around 54:46. Will you be okay with that?
सर नहीं चलेगा, ये बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है. आई गेस आई विल बी ओके विद 57-43 रेशियो, बट नथिंग मोर देन दैट.
That means your personal expansion band is 3%. Some are okay with a 10% band, others prefer a 5%. Essentially, it is all about what percent of change to your initial asset allocation are you okay with. Anyway, now the question is, how do you rebalance your portfolio? See, since your objective is to restore your original asset allocation, you will have to make changes accordingly. In this case, you will have to add rupees 9,600 in equity and remove the same from bonds to maintain the 60:40 ratio.
अब समझा, ये वाला अप्रोच काफी इंटरेस्टिंग है.
Bilkul. Now that you have understood, here are some different approaches you can take to rebalance your portfolio.
First, cash out of outperforming assets and redirect the funds to restore the original asset allocation. Second, withdraw funds from the asset classes that are outperforming to meet current income needs. That is, you can use this money for general expenses. Third, direct new money into funds that are below target asset allocation. Fourth, direct dividend to be reinvested into another fund for rebalancing.
Fifth, use switches in ULIPs. Investor has the choice to choose from a variety of funds to rebalance.
Sixth, use dynamic funds. These are funds that are dynamically managed by the fund manager as per the prevailing market conditions. Seventh, use life cycle or life stage funds to auto rebalance. A life stage fund automatically rebalances the asset in the fund as per your age. As you age, the percentage of each asset is revised to maintain your exposure to risk as per your life goals.
Madhu, in your case, since you're heavily investing in equity,
You should look at even rebalancing the stocks held in your portfolio.
decide the weightage of small, mid, and large cap stocks and make sure your segment allocation is also maintained.
हाँ सर, समझ गया. What a great idea.
Rebalancing is a technique which seems simple, but it can take a lot of discipline. It's very easy to fall for the illusion that your current investment successes will continue forever. Emotions cause people to stay with investment too long and end up losing the very gains that they were so proud of. It takes discipline to sell something when it's growing and invest that money into something that down in price or growing more slowly. This discipline is what makes you more successful.
Yes, sir. सही कहा आपने. There is no place for emotion in this.
राइट ये देखो, आप सबको डिसिप्लिन का ज्ञान देते देते यहाँ मेरी दूसरी चाय की प्याली खत्म हो गई. अब तो बस टोना जी की हाथ की बिरयानी का इंतजार है. एंड थैंक यू टोना जी फॉर एवरीथिंग.
यहाँ कोई डिसिप्लिन की जरूरत नहीं, आपका अपना घर है।
तो आई थिंक नाउ आई हैव अ लाइसेंस टू ईट ओवर हियर। ये देखिए, हम लोग बातों में लगे रहे और कल इसकी एंगेजमेंट है। इसकी एंगेजमेंट की तैयारियों का क्या?
सर, एंगेजमेंट की सारी तैयारियां हो चुकी है। ऊपर छत पर एंगेजमेंट का प्रोग्राम रखा है। एक छोटा सा स्टेज लगेगा, ज्यादा लोग नहीं है तो आराम से मैनेज हो जाएगा।
अच्छा सब लोग सुनिए, सब लोग रिलैक्स कीजिए। आई विल रिव्यू द अरेंजमेंट्स प्रॉपर्ली एंड रीबैलेंस wherever we need to correct course.
That's right.
Okay.